Welcome to the City of Newport special meeting of the Board of Commissioners, January 21, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow. Here. Commissioner Recton.
Here.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Here.
Mayor Kaduli.
Here, personnel orders. Commissioners, order number 8.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, ratifying the mayor's reappointment of Susan Whitehead to the Board of Adjustments for the City of Newport, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, Ms. Whitehead is the chair of our Board of Adjustment. She has been on this board for quite some time. She's been on other boards previously. Does a really nice job, is very enthusiastic for the city. So the next one is on the different board with Scott Fleckinger. He's much newer. I believe he filled an unexpired term in historic preservation. So these are just reappointments, both individuals active in the community and active and engaged on their boards.
Thank you, John. As we're talking about Susan Whitehead, I do want to thank her for all of her service on the board. She's provided great service over these years. Our citizen boards are among the most important work that gets done in this city, and we appreciate all of them and the work that they do. Any other comments on the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Recton.
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Commissioners, order number 9.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, ratifying the mayor's reappointment of Scott Fleckinger to the Historic Preservation Commission of the City of Newport, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
As John had mentioned, Scott is serving in the historic preservation. Historic preservation has been a key component of our success of our city. We've invested in it regularly, and the work that they do is important. One thing I want to add before we leave these appointments to these citizen boards is that we're always looking for people to serve and willing to serve. On our website, I believe there's a form that you can download and apply and send in to the city building. Someday, we'll have an editable form that you can submit but we're not quite there yet, but we're going to be on that path. But if you're in the public and have an interest to serve, our roster of people interested is very small at this time. And if you have an interest, please raise your hand, submit a form, and we'll give you due consideration. Any questions on Scott Fleckinger's appointment from the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Recton.
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda item, which is the second reading of Commissioner's Ordinance number 2, 3, and 4.
Mayor, these are positions that we talked about the last couple of meetings within the office of, let's see, the first one is the meeting time. That's just permanently moving the meeting time up to 6:30 as we discussed, as the meeting is tonight. As it relates to the personnel and the Office of the City Manager, that's the Economic Development Coordinator and the Municipal Liaison. Those roles that we discussed, those roles are posted online. We have been getting applications that this is the first year that we, at least that I'm aware of, that we went to use a third party as well. So we tried ZipRecruiter to get more applications than what we had been seeing through our website. So we have had a significant amount of applications for all the jobs that we've posted. So Mr. Steffen and I have been going through those. We've already scheduled some interviews, but just for the sake of moving this as quickly as we can. However, that deadline runs on the 31st. So we'll review again, we'll set up more, and then ideally, I would have some new hires to bring to you on that in our February meeting. As it relates to the Planning and Development Department, those were the positions, again, that we had discussed on last week. And then the first reading here is Police Department. There are 3 positions it's going to look like on the ordinance. And really, this is just some moving things around. Terry Baker, who's our Animal Control Officer, had been placed in code enforcement, and that's where she's been since she was hired here. I think it makes more sense that she becomes part of the police department. She gets dispatched out of there. She frequently has to work with police officers, as she does her task. A lot of times they have to accompany her if there's a situation, so I think this just is cleaner. It doesn't change anything, as there's no new hire associated with this. There's no pay bump or anything that's gonna happen as it relates to animal control. The other was a position with the sign specialist. Bob Steffen, as the board knows, has been in a role similar to this for a long time. I believe that years ago in the police department, they created what was called the IDENT team, Interdepartmental Enforcement Team is what that acronym is. Bob Steffen does all the signs. He does a lot of the traffic striping when he can. He does the traffic studies, all sorts of things that he does. All of those fall under the auspices of the police department, which is where his direct reports are. The only thing in that, just for whatever reason over the years, just wasn't codified in the ordinances, but he's been acting in that type of role for years now. As it relates to the new role, this is a more customer service oriented, I think, community policing side of things. Barry Shields had worked in code, as he does right now, started doing a lot with the community. Barry would work with veterans, for example, and help place people. I know Barry spent time, we've done some stuff with Renewport in the past when they had facade grants, and Barry would help them identify candidates that he found in the community that might need a little extra help. So I think Chief Fagman can expand a little bit more on what Mr. Shields will be doing in the police department under this role.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I met with Barry several times. There's parts of a uniformed police officer's position that are just inherently sometimes not as approachable and can be intimidating for some people that we serve. I want to cut through that, and I want to have somebody that's very close to the residents on any given street. Barry has a great plan to evaluate every street, get to know anybody who's elderly or underserved in the community, and really do a lot of outreach. Almost like a detective, he's going to have a case log of whoever lives anywhere that needs attention, and he is going to keep us aware if he sees anything kind of boiling up on any given street or in any given neighborhood. So this will be a great way for us to access things that we can take care of even sooner than when we end up showing up. Hopefully things that we can get the community to rally around and work together and really prevent, for instance, the spring flare-ups that typically happen and things like that. So we want to get into people's homes in any way that we can help and show them that we're willing to help and walk them through a process. It's going to be a great parallel to that social worker coming out. They're going to be working hand in hand in a lot of situations. And it's exciting that they'll be able to support each other when it comes to how we can help in the earlier steps before it gets a little further down the path.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments or questions on the board?
Tom, we're including this first reading in that consent then?
Yes, and I actually didn't speak to that, and I was going to give a summary before we voted. But at this time, we are going to have a first reading of Commissioner's ordinance, just for clarity of the public. An ordinance requires 2 readings and a vote. An order requires 1. So this will require a second vote and will occur at our next meeting. So at this point, if there are any of these items that anyone would like to speak on, this is the time.
Chief, I wanted to talk on, and something that I noted, I think it was in John's memo regarding Barry's role, that he would interface between the PD and ABC. Would you speak to that a little bit? Because I've advocated for a long time that we need to more actively pursue the enforcement with regard to liquor licenses.
Yes, that's been part of my direction as well. We can use that, for instance, of something that we're continuously looking at. There's a couple of neighborhood bars that have been on our radar because of activity there over the past few months. Part of what Barry will be doing is we want to find the roots of those issues in any given neighborhood and be able to work with ABC and be able to have somebody with Barry's knowledge of code and citing for things that are out of hand, more aggressive looks at things that need to be taken care of, again, prior to when police have to show up for a fight in the middle of the street.
2 other items. John, you said that these newly created movements will be a net zero or close to a net zero with regard to expenses. Do you still feel that way?
Yes. So And what I'll do is we'll get an organizational chart, kind of explain to the board like where some of those things went. I can tell you that part of this was we had a part-time, we had one part-time role that was filled by Ms. Williams, who moved up to the legal assistant role, so that will not be filled any longer. City manager had budgeted, I believe, 2 code enforcement individuals, or 2 part-time customer service, which we will not be using. We're moving people around otherwise. There was a project manager that was in the budget, that was budgeted for the entire year, which that we're not going to fill that as well. Well, we may fill it, but we won't backfill. So to create some savings there. So, yeah, so there's and I've been talking to Mr. Kuntz about all of this, is making sure that we get as close to a 0 as we can get on these roles.
My last question is a request that we have, prior to putting people in these positions, we have a position description and some goals for the year for each one of the positions. Is that attainable?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments from the public? Anyone else on the board?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Top of page 2 is an order that was also included on the consent agenda. And you
Okay, we'll just do that one separately. We'll do that one separately.
And just to touch on, Mayor, to expand on Chief Fangman's comments as it relates to Barry, is one of the things that we found a few years ago. Well, we had a problem with a bar on 3rd Street, and there was just significant issues that we continued having. And when Barry and Paul Kunkel started putting together a plan of attack for them, we noticed that the issues dropped significantly. Certainly the gravity of the seriousness of the things that were going on had changed. And one of the things that Barry and Paul did was they created a group that they call informally the 3rd Street Collaborative. And what that is it's a representative of the Levy businesses, Southgate House, or Thompson House, or they call it now, Ultra Lounge, Game Time, all of the players that were on 3rd Street. And what worked out great about that was when you approach somebody individually, and it's kind of like, why is the city asking me? What about these people? When you bring them all together and they all see that we're all working together towards common goals, what we started seeing was they started partnering then on agreeing that we're all going to put more lights in our place. We're all going to put more cameras, things that they could do on their expense without costing us. So this worked out really good. And I think by enhancing that and doing more of it, expanding that to other parts of the area as well. I don't want to commit to saying we're going to do exactly on Monmouth Street, as we're going to bring some new folks in and see how that goes. But certainly that idea of building that communication between them, taking that information back to ABC as needed, I think will go a long way. Because like I said, we've seen results of it before.
Excellent.
Agreed. I think it did a good job at setting expectations and got rid of the finger pointing of, what about them?
Exactly.
Everyone worked together, and it all worked well. All right, please call the roll on the consent agenda items.
Did I have a first or a second on that?
Also moved
Nope.
on it.
Second.
That's important.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, excuse me, Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Commissioners' order number 7.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the city manager to issue purchase order for the purchase of 1 Tesla Model Y electric vehicle in the use in the Code Enforcement Department.
So moved.
Second.
Who would like to speak on this item?
Mr. Steffen addressed this one.
Welcome, Brian.
Good evening. So this is, again, the city's effort to expand its EV vehicle fleet. In the code and planning and development departments, we are short a vehicle, and we are driving some aging vehicles at that. One of our vehicles that's routinely used daily is a 2005 F-150, which I think probably through maintenance costs and upkeep, we've probably built 3 of those over the years. So it's time to start cycling some of these things out. And again, we are short 1. So the thought behind the Model Y, I know the police department has explored looking at the Model Y as part of their fleet as well. For those of you who were on the board at the time, back in 2019, we had purchased 3 Dodge Chargers in the code enforcement department at the time, and the thought was is if there ever became a need that the police department had for those Chargers, that they were easily moved over to the police department, and then we could backfill code with those things. That happened very shortly after we bought those, and thankfully we did have those. The police department did need those. So This is an effort to pilot this into a different department outside of police department, see if this works for the needs of planning and development and code. And we think it's going to work well. There has been some talk, and heard today that there's a presidential executive order about eliminating the EV subsidy, federal EV subsidy of $7,500. The city is applying for those and getting those in all of these instances. I did check that executive order. It is not intended to pause or eliminate it. I don't think that they can by executive order with that, so it's still in place. We'll verify that before we purchase the vehicle, but there is a $7,500 benefit for that for buying these. So,
Any questions on the board?
Yeah, how much is this car?
I think the amount not to exceed is like 48,000 and some change. So with the 7,500, it brings it down just past.
Would this be an assigned vehicle, or is this a fleet vehicle?
It'd be assigned.
Okay, and then it'd be a take-home?
This would be a take-home, correct? Yes.
So, Mr. Steffen, how much would a gasoline car cost that we would use by comparison?
It depends on the vehicle, but I know we've seen some other vehicles comparative size, and that's roughly in the 30,000 to mid-30 range. Some of the cheaper ones we've seen into like 26, 27,000.
Okay, and our maintenance costs on the gasoline vehicles, they're significantly more, yes?
That's correct. Yes, there's more to maintenance on those. The brakes on even just the brakes alone on the Tesla last significantly longer due to the regenerative braking and all that is associated with it, correct?
Thank you.
As a part of the discussion, this was kind of indicated as a pilot for the police department as well, and in the context of what it costs to replace a cruiser at this point, what is that number at this time?
To replace a cruiser?
Yeah, or a Durango, or,
Not sure what your,
The Durangos are I want to say between 44 and 46,000.
so net, this is actually a savings just over the sheer dollar amount. So it is a value proposition before you even get into the maintenance issues.
that's right.
Okay.
And then before you get into fuel and all those other issues, and we're working on the charging infrastructure for the city eventually for the police department to be able to use these in patrol with some superchargers that we acquired. So I think all in all, it's a good plan to explore these things. It seems like it's worked out so far in the police department with the command staff that have those. We're likely going to have to add an additional charger in the parking lot, which we can easily do with what we have currently in place. So.
But our plan is to go slowly, prove effectiveness before we go buy a fleet of cars, correct?
And Chief, how are those handling up in the cold weather these days, the threes that you have right now?
It's been fine. As I said at the prior meeting, we've had zero cost associated. Obviously, no gas, very limited. I forget the exact number. It's between $5 and $6 to fill one up with electric. It's just nominal compared to a gas in.
Very good, thank you.
And I'd ask Ed as well, Mayor, that, we have another savings. There's, obviously no oil changes in a Tesla, but beyond that, the reason why this model was a little bit more expensive than the smaller model that you've seen with the police department is they use that for their command staff, who wouldn't be on patrol and would be in rare circumstances they had to put a fugitive in their vehicle. These are a little bit bigger. These could fit the cage in the back if we were to go that way. So I would say most likely the most realistic thing will be is that the PD will probably ultimately get this car before they buy their own Model Y, just to see how they like it when that time comes. Obviously, you never know with circumstances, but that would be how I kind of forecast that right now.
Any questions from the public? One last time for the board.
I was just going to ask if it was the same model. I thought it was a different model than what we had already purchased, and so this is good. This is very good. I like the approach.
Thank you, Brian. Tiffany, please call the roll.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Takes us to the new business section, Commissioner's Order number 6.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, authorizing and directing Mayor Thomas L. Cadulli Jr. to execute and submit to the Kentucky Department for Local Government an application for Community Development Block Grant funds for development of a single-family housing in the City of Newport, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, if I could at this time, for the new members on commission, and because there are changes in personnel in Frankfurt, it's become that we need to revisit this matter, not to change it, to revisit it so that we understand that this has been addressed in a public forum and everybody understands. And what I'm driving at is that back in 2021, we passed an order which indicated that as a result of the fact that these community block grants are done through the Newport Housing Authority, and your father is in charge of the housing authority, you as mayor or his son, that it became necessary for you to recuse yourself for any votes with regard to these types of matters. So we're reinstituting that policy. There was a memorandum that was handed out in your packet that fully explains this. So we just want to go on record that we're making this pronouncement to the public so they understand the combinations of our relationships here, why you need to recuse yourselves from these votes, and that with this being done, that they will continue not to have a problem with going forward in that regard.
Thank you for that summary.
Mayor, Ms. Elrod is here, and he will speak to this. Before he comes up, a couple of things. I received a couple questions about this and received some clarification today from talking to Mr. Steffen, spoke with Mr. Gaduli Jr. So the first question is, this is CBDG, Community Development Block Grants. Could this source of funding be used for projects other than housing? In the situation, and Mr. Elrod, correct me if I'm wrong when he comes up, but in this situation, I understand this money was designated by the federal government as housing money. So this would not have been an option that we could have done another project for. Is that correct? Correct. Then Mr. Gaduli told me wrong. So I'll let him explain that. There's 5 new builds, all on vacant lots, and these will be, Mr. Elrod, get to the specifics how that works, and we'll go from there.
And Ron, are you coming to speak on this as well, or is Dennis going to handle the whole thing?
I'm here.
Okay.
Quick primer on Community Development Block Grant Program, HUD program that's administered by the state of Kentucky through the Department for Local Government. CDBG money is divvied up into 4 or 5 different pools, housing being one of those. Public facilities, things like water and sewer, things of that nature is the second pool. Third pool is something called community facilities, not public facilities, but community facilities. For example, many years ago, the Boys and Girls Club through the city of Newport received CDBG money for furniture, fixtures, and equipment when that building was built. And finally, economic development is the last pool of funds. The prohibition is you can have one housing, public facilities, or community facilities project at a time. You can have as many economic development projects as you can put together and they will approve, they being the Department for Local Government. So by applying for housing money for this particular project, it precludes you from making an application for public facilities or community facilities until such time as this project is closed. That has been the case forever. To my knowledge, the city has taken advantage of community development block grant funds for economic development in years past. I guess the Palm Beach project being the one that immediately comes to mind, that was an economic development project. And the city has utilized program income where developers have paid money back to the city for other things that would not be fundable under the block grant program, would be eligible, but in a competitive environment would not be fundable. The most recent one I remember is redoing the street lights here on Monmouth Street, a lot of painting. The city has done a variety of things with those funds. Those funds have run out. They've paid all their money back.
The program income funds.
You know, as far as the developers owing the city money through loans, through block grant funded projects, those loans have all been retired. So whatever money is still remaining is for the city to use with the local government's approval. But make I just want to make sure that you understand it doesn't preclude you from doing economic development. It precludes you from doing public facilities. It precludes you from doing community facilities until this project would close. The reason that you're eligible to apply now is that we just recently closed the last open housing project. In the interim, Mr. Gaduli Senior's group went to the Campbell County Fiscal Court, and they agreed to sponsor a project, and that project is underway right now, similar to this one. It's, creation of additional homeownership units, just as this one does.
How long do you expect this to be open, Dennis?
Pardon?
How long do you expect this project to be open?
Probably 18 months to 2 years. But by that time, we certainly hope that Campbell County project is closed as well, and if there would be an opportunity to work with them on a project, that would be there, because they, unlike the city of Newport, who can only do projects within the city boundaries, Campbell County can sponsor and implement projects across the county without regard to city boundaries.
Similar to the one done in Highland Heights.
Pardon?
The one done in Highland Heights,
One
yeah.
in Highland Heights, there've been a couple in Highland Heights that were part of this, yes.
And describe the product to us too, one more time, if you don't mind.
For this application.
Yeah, yeah.
5 new single-family houses on vacant lots. The addresses, and this is the testy part, 1036 Hamlet, 100 block of West 8th, 500 block of West 8th, Hodge and Hodge Street. So those are Hamlet, Hodge, and I think that's it. There are 5 new constructions. They're all going to be single-family detached dwellings. They'll look very much like the ones that have just been finished and sold on West 10th Street in Lindsay, and the 300 block of those streets. They'll look very much like the ones that are currently under construction through the Campbell County project. So these properties and these projects have all been sent to the Kentucky Heritage Council, and they have blessed what we're proposing to do.
And for the public's edification, what is the price point, how many units, bedrooms, and what's the qualifications to buy one of these, and how does one go about that?
All right, that's a lot of questions, so let me see if I can get them all. First of all, they are 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-story houses, brick facade, hardy board exterior other than in the front. Most of them will have off-street parking associated with them. Price point right now is projected to be $190,000. $20,000 of that is what's called a soft second mortgage to the would-be buyer. If they remain in the house for 5 years, own it, maintain it in compliance with code, they don't owe anything back if they stay after the 5 years. The second 5 years of a 10-year period, 20% of the amount that was loaned to them will be forgiven. If they move within the first 5 years, it's all due. So if you are a buyer, you're going to have adequate credit that you can go get a first mortgage fixed rate, no junk loan, 30-year fixed rate first mortgage. You have to have finished a home buyer education program that is offered through Brighton Center. You cannot have any prior felony convictions or anything of that nature and participate in the program. In terms of how you go about buying one of these homes, once we get to a point that we're 90 to 120 days from them actually being available to sell, there will be advertisements placed in the local newspaper. There will be a notice on the city's website as well that says that applications are being taken. They're done on a first-come, first-served basis. You have to be at a level income-wise no more than, this is inside baseball, no more than 80% of the area development or the area median income, which is adjusted by household size. A family of 4 can have an income up into the mid-70s and still be eligible to do that.
And first-time home buyer only?
No, primarily that's who we're getting. but there is no prohibition. You cannot own a house at the time that you make application for one of these. If you have been a homeowner previously but are not currently a homeowner, you would be eligible to make application.
Just a comment, in Lincoln KY, there was a nice article that came out last week that the ad district did a menu of options for what we would call in the ad district the income-aligned housing issue that we have in our region throughout the 8 counties. And this is a nice example. This is not affordable with vouchers. It's something totally different. This is income-aligned, and this is designed to get folks that are, that would be teachers, nurses, first responders. And we've done this before throughout the city with different projects into home ownership, which is always a benefit to our community. So I just wanted to make that known, just because of how sensitive of this topic is to some folks that have reached out to me today and asked you some questions about it.
Well, Mr. Rao actually has some information. The Area Development District has issued a strong letter of support for this particular project, and he has that available.
Welcome, Brown. Why don't you come up and inform us of all the letters of support that were written, because I know that there were a slew of them, because these programs have worked well. And
Thank you, Mayor. Name is Ron Rawl. I am the treasurer of Newport Millennium Housing Corp. 3, who is the builder, the developer of these projects. But here's a set of letters from various organizations that are in support of this.
Thanks, Ron.
So as you can see, a number of organizations developed this or in support of this.
Do you want to read
Just
them real quick, just so that we can get some?
What's that again?
Public. Do you want to not read who the proper nouns, but the organizations that they're?
I didn't save a copy for myself. Let me,
They're very prominent, and I just wanted to get that.
So the Newport Independent School Board, Mr. Tony Watts has sent one in. Newport, Gordon Henry from the board president of the Newport. South Bank Partners, and John Weber, president of South Bank Partners, is in support of this. Commissioner Radwanski, you mentioned the ad district. So the ad district is also in support of this. Tara Johnson named the executive director. So those are 4 letters that we have received that are in support of this. And this is not unlike other projects that you have supported in the past. We've had a number of CDBG funded projects over the years. As Mr. Elrod mentioned, we've gone back and forth between the city being the recipient of the grant and us being the subrecipient. So the city and the county have done this. We've done a number of these projects over the years. You've probably seen many of the houses that we've built. Mr. Elrod went through the construction of that. These houses, when we do these, as you well know, construction costs have gone up drastically over the last 4 to 5 years, where we used to be able to do these somewhere in the low $200,000 to $250,000. Now they're well over $300,000. I just checked the most recent one that Mr. Elrod mentioned, Campbell County. We did 7 houses there, I believe, on that last one. 5 new ones and 2 rehabs. And the 5 new ones, there was not one less than $325,000 in construction cost. So it's a considerable price. So these grants have been very helpful for us to be able to build these. They, as he mentioned, they don't necessarily go to first-time home buyers, but you cannot own a home. And that further, one thing that we've had to do internally is that in I guess, writing these grants and selling these houses, if somebody should sell one of these houses within the first 5 years, actually, I think in this case it's 10 years now, they must turn around and sell that to another qualified home buyer. They can't just turn around, and this isn't a get-quick scheme. We've had that happen, not that the buyers have intended to do that, but we've had a couple of buyers that have turned around and sold the house within less than 2 years. And they've probably doubled their price on what they've actually bought the house for. So that's not the intent of this home ownership program. The intent is to get it to qualified home buyers and make that their home, and hopefully stay here and live here in the city for a great deal of time. The one thing I know that several years ago, some of you were on the board, and you remember a presentation that we made showing the tax implications of these. I mean, currently, these are vacant lots. The city, the school board, the county are virtually making no money, tax dollars off of these. And obviously, when we turn around and sell these houses, we will sell them for, $190, but Dennis mentioned the $20 soft mortgage, so $170,000 to the seller. But there again, that puts properties on the tax rolls for the city. And it's created a great deal of income over the years. So we certainly hope that the city would be in favor of doing this again and support us and going forth with this project as well. I don't know if there's any questions that you have.
Any questions on the board?
I have a question. Regarding the grant, how does that work? Can you walk me through the process? Does the foundation apply for the grant?
Dennis, you probably know a little bit more about that application process than I do, so I'll let Dennis speak to
The
that.
application process is pretty simple. Only units of local government can make application for community development block grant dollars. You can, as you have many times in years past, then through a development agreement, go to a subrecipient and have them execute that project on behalf of the city. That's what the same, situation that we'd be looking at here. The grant process is, deadline's January 31st for this year. It's an annual allocation process. They still have housing money available. We cut it a little close, closing the other one. We couldn't seem to get that last one closed at the bank, but we have. Process is, it goes to the Kentucky Department for Local Government. What happens when it goes into the big black box down there? I have no idea what that process looks like.
It's a pointing process, though.
I suspect that there's gnashing of gears and smoke and whatever, and eventually, if you're successful, you get a letter saying congratulations. Once that happens, and I guess only Commissioner Recton has been through this process before, we come back to you. First of all, I work for the city. I'm under contract to the city to provide this service. I come back to you with a list of what's called evidentiary materials, where the state says, give us all of these things where you promise to do things, and at that time, we'll actually release your money. That's the application process. I suspect that, and I don't expect that we'll be unsuccessful if you folks approve submitting, but in the event we were, the window will open back up again for money probably sometime in between March and May of next year. Every year, less and less money is being allocated for the housing side of things. That has changed a bit with the horrible tragedies that have happened in eastern and western Kentucky, but there have been separate, allocations of funds from other sources. But the housing piece of the action continues to get smaller and smaller. There's a $1 million maximum allocation per grant for CDBG for housing. We're at like $994 is the ask here. That's the process. Ron mentioned that we've done this a number of times, and for maybe the benefit of the new commissioners, Mr. Recton, I'm sure remembers all of this, but this is just recent projects that have been done here in the city. Most all of them being done by Newport Millennium Housing Corporation, which is a not-for-profit venture of the Housing Authority. But this just gives you some idea both homeownership as well as multifamily units. The one thing that I want to reiterate, and oftentimes people hear federal money, housing, the assumption is this is public housing. It is clearly not. It has no identity with public housing whatsoever. This is single-family homeownership housing that we're bringing to you tonight for your action. But you can see that a number of these are 3 bedrooms. We've got some 1 bedrooms. We've got some 2 bedrooms. The Area Development District study that was alluded to earlier about the need for housing, Mr. Gaduli's group knew that before they bothered to say that out loud. They've been doing small units, and this is a fraction. This is certainly less than 25% of the units that have been done in the last 10 years, and a number of those other units were small, were rehabs, 1 and 2 bedroom, that I didn't think there would be a market for, but I'm happy to say I was wrong about that, as I am a number of things. But this gives you some idea of the city's involvement, as well as other funding sources that Newport Millennium and Entryway, which is another group that was formed to be eligible to apply for the NSP Home Consortium money. This is just some of the projects that have been done. Ones that are highlighted in green were rehabs as opposed to new constructions. The ones at the bottom, toward the bottom of the page that are in the light gray shading, those are the 5 units that we're asking for your approval tonight to submit the application.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
May I just make a comment, if you would, Mayor?
Sure.
One of the things I think we always need to remember is there are projects that we all have in mind that we like to see happen. You know, this funding mechanism is available for some of those projects as well. So I'm very much in favor of this, but if next year we feel like, you know, hey, a community center or something else needs to be done, or even as we bring on, and John wants to bring on someone in economic development, this can be used as a tool for enticement for new economic development as well. So we should keep that open and keep that mind open.
Window is always open for economic development. They never seem to run out of money because they continue to bump that piece of the pie up every year.
Thanks, Dennis.
I think it's important to clarify that point over and over. This housing money is separate from economic. That pot is available to be applied for those types of projects. The other part that I think is important to note is, what year was that when the housing crisis hit? Has it already been?
08.
It's already been that long. It's been a lot of years ago, but a lot of the lots that were captured at that point that created challenges in blocks have been infilled. And we have stabilized blocks through these programs. And the good news is that we're on a great path. The challenge is that the need in the future and the land available in the future is less likely to be there as it was in the past. We're a small city, and these projects did a lot to stabilize specific blocks and some entire blocks. And this will be a part of that, and unfortunately, we may have to do other paths in the future, but this has been a good journey, and it's great to have this application before the board tonight.
Your father told me many years ago when I started working for him, if we're really good at this, we'll work ourselves out of a job. That we will get to a point that the private market will be able to step in and do the things that we're doing now. It's not an accident that there haven't been any new houses built in the West End in a long time. It just didn't make any financial sense for someone to try to do that on a paying basis. And without these grant funds, these projects can't be done either. They subsidize the construction cost. They provide that $20,000 soft second mortgage. Without those kind of supports, projects like this aren't feasible.
And they lead reinvestment in the community, and that's what this has done as well.
I think all you have to do is follow along after one of these projects start. Next thing you know, the neighbors decided they're gonna paint their house, or whatever else. So there is certainly some spill, and we're starting to see some private investment in buying houses, turning them over. The difference with this, we have never, and never's, you know, I try to avoid words like never and always, but we have never displaced anybody to do these projects. No one has ever been relocated to do any of these single-family homeownership projects. It's either been vacant buildings, long-term vacant buildings. As to, you know, Tom Senior, I told him, you need to get one of those signs that says, "We buy ugly houses." I said, because he has certainly bought some ugly houses, and you go back and look at them when they're finished, and you can't hardly believe, you know, what you're looking at. The state actually uses one of the houses that was done on their website as an example of what rehab should look like.
Thank you, Dennis. Any questions from the public?
So, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, me and my husband was on that list. We went to the home buyers class, got our certificate. My question is, it's just us two. He's a disabled veteran. It's just us two. So, are we only allowed to just get like the 1-bedroom?
No.
And we got took off the list. So it was a, anyway, yeah.
Well, I would encourage you, if you remain interested, that you look, because it will be publicized once applications are starting to be taken. And it is first come, first served. And when people make application, are certified to meet all the criteria that allow you to participate in the program, you go on the list. If you're number one, you get, you know, your options to take the first house that comes along. What they do not do is say, you're number one now, but I'm waiting for this house in this location. It's not only is it first come, first served, it's first come when the house is available. If you don't want that house, you can go back on the list, but you're gonna be somewhere probably well down.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Last chance on the board. Tiffany, please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton.
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
I almost said yes and not yes. I recuse myself.
There you go.
You almost punched me, everybody's watching. You gonna say it? Commissioner's order number 10.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, authorizing the purchase of mobile data terminals and other related equipment for use in the police department pursuant to the awarded 2024 Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant.
So moved.
Second.
Chief.
I am so very proud of our command staff and all the different hats that we wear. We are a fine old machine. We have a lot of support in each other. Captain Drohan, if you don't mind stepping up. One of Captain Drohan's very important jobs within the police department is to seek out grants to stretch our money as far as we possibly can. Along with that, he's also in charge of all of our detectives in our major cases. So those are just 2 hats. I could go on for a while naming different things that each command staff member does. I want to show my appreciation to the staff. They do an amazing job. This is yet another grant that Captain Drohan was able to obtain that is going to replace every computer inside police cars, every printer, every computer in our offices throughout the police department, and cost the taxpayers very little to nominal amounts from what I understand. Will you go into the detail with that, Captain?
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, Board, I'm trying to make this quick because I think I'm last. But no, we applied for the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant, the state Homeland Security grant, under the national priority of enhancing cybersecurity posture and improving our cybersecurity resilience. As Chief said, a lot of what we do is computerized. It's the mobile data terminals is how we query plates, query articles for stolen, communicate with dispatch. And most recently, Department of Criminal Justice Training has incorporated some distance learning to our training. And so having laptops allows the officers to do that from the office and complete those trainings. Currently, we have probably about 90% of our current technology, computers and laptops are 6 to 10 years old, and soon they will not be, they're ending at their end of their support life, so they will not be Windows 11 compatible. So that's where that part of the security, cybersecurity importance comes in, is then we won't be CJIS compliant, Criminal Justice Information System compliant, and we won't meet those security requirements. So with this grant, it's enabling us to purchase laptops for the offices, which will include a Thunder Dock station. That's where it comes in for the office. It'll be multi-purpose. We can take it to school with us for training, and then all the detectives. And then in the cars, it's, like I said, it'll be about 46 laptops, 8 desktops, the Thunderbolt docks for the office, and we get into the thermal printers for the cars. And the thermal printers are a bit expensive, but it allows us to print without ink, have to do ink replacements and drying out. It's all thermal. So the total grant funding that we received was $65,600. There's a 10% match, $6,560. So the project total cost is $72,160. And that, like I said, will replace every device in the police department, be compatible with anything that's Windows 11, and like I said, Office Homeland Security grant.
Captain, how old on average are the devices that we have currently out there in the field today?
We have some up to 10 years old.
Okay.
We're using laptops that have been refurbished, again, to try and stay within budget and meet those needs. We typically try to find refurbished machines that we can use, so a lot of them are about 10.
Very good, thank you.
Any comments on the board?
Thank you,
Public?
Kevin. and thank
Great
you.
work, appreciated.
Thank
You're
you.
proud of them, we're proud of them. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
All right. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sutherland?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith-Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Recton?
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski?
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli?
Yes. There's just a department head comments. Who wants to go? Dan?
I'd just like to pass on my condolences to the passing of my predecessor on Saturday. He was a great city attorney to work under for all the years that I did and succeeding in his position. I'm going to miss him and what he brought, not just to the city and all the years here, but to the practice of law and as a person.
For those of you who do not know, his name was Mike Shulkins, and he served us for a very long time and did a great job. Thank you, Dan. Brian? Chief?
I have nothing, but thank you.
John?
A couple of things. We have a caucus on February the 3rd. I've got to confirm with my assistant, but Habitat for Humanity wanted to give a presentation about their age in place and their veterans program, to have some conversation about things that are available to not just residents of Newport, but people in the community at large. There's some other ways that Habitat might be able to partner with us on some projects that we can have those conversations, but this would be strictly for informational purposes. And just for the board's edification, I know that every potential caucus date is not listed on our board schedule, obviously in the summertime and as people travel and so forth, but I would look this year that we're gonna have quite a few caucuses and other special meetings to discuss several things. One of the big thing that I think the board's gonna be looking at this year is Monmouth Street. Where we see it, where we'd like it to go. There was a study that was done last year about two-way Monmouth, which we have circulated to the board, that we're gonna circulate into the community as well, to have some of those conversations. I know over the years, you've heard a lot about two-way Monmouth, both pro and con. I think it makes sense that we have a very deep conversation about that from the board, that residents, stakeholders, business owners all get to come in and do that as well. As the board knows, we get some incoming new hires. I would expect that our new economic development person will be on Monmouth Street quite a bit, having some of those conversations, getting the pulse of the business that we can report back to you. But all of that stuff will be done through public meetings and throughout the year. And obviously, we want to move with as much haste as we can, but we also want to be very careful that we do the right things and everybody's voice gets heard and listened to. So we'll spend some time over the next several months having those conversations. The board retreat is scheduled for February the 8th. That will be at 9 a.m. That's here at this building. It is open to the public. However, the conversation, for the most part, will be limited to the board and topics that they want to hear. I don't think in the past that we've streamed that. I think it makes sense that we do, so it's available for people to watch either at that time or later, especially if it's early in the morning. There's a lot of topics that people want to know. For the public's edification on this, what I've asked is that every board member submit to me 3 topics. I've gotten a lot of those so far. I'm going to put those together, the ones that, there's going to be some overlap. So the ones that it's on everybody's list, we'll spend more time on those as we delve out the day. So I'll work to make sure the appropriate staff members are there to answer those questions if there are things that are at the staff level. But just having a conversation with the board. In previous years, we've done the caucus where the staff, presents to the board. So we're gonna kind of do it in reverse this time, that, there'll be a couple things that Brian and I will bring to discuss, but these will be issues led by the board for that conversation. So that, again, that is February the 8th. And we'll have that conversation. And then as we figure out topics for these various caucuses, I'll also update the schedule on the website. So if someone wants to know about a particular issue, then they'll know what day they can come and hear that conversation. So that's what we're working on, and we'll have more of that for you as well. As far as new hires, we have a caucus on February 3rd. If everything goes good in the hiring process, there's a chance that we might have a very brief special meeting to make those hires that night. If not, then we may do that on the retreat date as well. So that's something I'll keep the board apprised of. And as we talked about last week, and we've been working with staff, the earlier that we get the agendas out, the earlier we get those topics out, I think better for the community. So we're going to keep working on that. Obviously, right now, we're not at, the full staffing level that we'll be. So that's why you didn't get this agenda, this time last week. But like I said, that is the goal that we're working toward, and I would imagine in a couple of months we'll be there. Other than that, I echo what Dan says. Mike Shulkins was going into retirement with the city when I was coming on to the Board of Commissioners. But, I talked to him for years, became very good friends. He was a resource, just a real straight shooter that always had great stories, and just certainly a legend here within city government anyway. So Mike will be greatly missed. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Sutherland.
Am I always gonna go first?
I don't know, we'll mix it up sometimes, but today you're going first.
All right. Well, thanks for all the presentations tonight. It was really nice. I want to ask the public to be patient with me. I am the newest member up here on the commission, so I'm still learning. Just got back from the Kentucky League of Cities city official training, I think is what it was called. It was a 3-day training in Lexington. Very informative. Meet a lot of commissioners and city councils from around the state. We are very fortunate in Newport to have a professional staff. We have a full-time city manager, assistant city manager, city solicitor, and and the rest of the staff as well. Not to short them, but a lot of places don't have the resources that we have, and it's amazing to go to and meet colleagues from around the state and be able to brag about Newport and how good of a job that our people do.
My devices.
That being said, it was a great training. I'm glad that I had that experience. Be patient with me as I learn. If anybody ever has any questions, comments, my information's on the website if you want to reach out to me. And the last thing I'll say is happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day yesterday. He was a wonderful man who is gone too soon.
Thank you, Aaron. Ken.
A couple things. I'll begin with John. I want to comment that very positive comments that I've received from the public with regard to your synopsises in front of the agenda, and that has been wondrous. People can read those and understand what's on the agenda rather than seeing that thing, and that's been very thankful. 98 years old, and that's not me, Haley. I'm not 98, but the Sweet Tooth is celebrating 98 years in our community and operating. 98 cents for a roll tomorrow. The peanut rolls are actually addictive, so get over there and buy some of those. That's a pretty big time, 98 years. The next
You
number.
mean cookie jar, right?
Oh, did I say Sweet Tooth?
You did.
Oh, my God. Everything's sweet, Cookie jar, that's what I mean. Thank you, Tom. Cookie jar. The next number is 0 degrees. And this is a little lengthy. Commissioner Smith-Morrow talked about how St. Paul's and Holy Spirit Church came together and was housing people during the evenings. that became in conflict with some of the activities happening at the church during the daytime. And I want to give a shout out to Judge Executive Steve Pendry and the 3 county commissioners. They stepped up and opened up the RCC again for tonight and tomorrow night, I think, or maybe even the next night too. And the RCC is located near the jail, so if you guys need a place to stay tonight, that's the place to go to. And it's a dormitory that was built for restricted custody, kind of misdemeanor felons to stay there. But it's a perfect location. It was been mothballed for a couple of years, so I want to give a shout out to them and recognize them for doing that, because that's an important thing to do. So that warming center is available there, and it's 400 block of Columbia. I think you can come off of Columbia to get into there. The next thing I do want to mention, Mike, you know, and I have very fond memories of Mike. Mike not only served us as a city attorney, but when the city manager was sick for a number of years, Mike came in and stepped in as city manager and did a yeoman's work for us. Such great stories. I have memories of Mike, and he did. Dan smiling over there. He had great stories. Mike did a lot of criminal defense, and some of those stories about criminal defense were wonderful as well. The last thing I mentioned too, the passing of Gina Curl. Gina and Tim lived next to me on Park Avenue when I lived over at 622 Park, and Gina passed away yesterday. Julie, is that it? Yeah. And my condolences to Tim and to his 2 children. So that's all, Tom.
Thank you, Ken. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to commend our new board member, Commissioner Sutherland, for taking a chance to go down to KLC to get some training. It's a very good course. I went through it when I first got on the board. I thought it was very helpful. So I think that's a great experience that you've had, and having a chance to do that and meet some of our peers throughout the Commonwealth. The second thing I want to talk to real quick is, you know, tonight we had a very good win on the topic of income-aligned housing. You know, we have these grandiose discussions like we have throughout the ad district, the 8 different counties, and a menu of options which looks more like a giant endless buffet that you can never possibly get to every good solution, because there's just so many that are offered out there. And we talk about these things, but then we're able to come back here in the city and actually go through and execute on a winning program that will put people who need these homes into a place where they can live and be a part of our community. So, board, I want to express that very, very grateful to have a unanimous vote on that. And, you know, to the point, yes, it's very cold. A friend of mine in New Orleans who I grew up with today sent me a photo on Bourbon Street with 4 inches of snow. This is a very unheard of winter. If you need these facilities, please take advantage of them. That's what they're there for. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Julie?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Want to echo the congratulations and thanks to our returning commission members, the Susan Whitehead on the Board of Adjustments and Scott Fleckinger on the HP Commission, and both of them have served very well, and they will continue to, I have no doubt. These are hard positions to fill at times with some touchy situations, and I think they've done a great job, and I appreciate their willingness to serve. Want to congratulate Police Department on the fabulous grant from Homeland Security. That's terrific, and to be able to get that much value, that many new units is pretty phenomenal. I will say that really highlight for me tonight is the furtherance of the CDBG approvals and that project. Very impressed with all the work that's been done on this over the years. We do talk about affordable housing, we talk about income aligned, and there's a lot of layers of understanding on all that, but what it really comes down to is that a lot of families are getting to live in some very fine homes. And as I am out in the city and talking to people, I've had so many people say how much they appreciate those opportunities through the Neighborhood Foundation's projects. And so thank you and thank you all for continuing to support these projects. I think they're just terrific. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Julie. I want to offer condolences to both of those families, the Shulkins family and the Curl family. They both served our community well throughout the years. I do need to share that some of the best history lessons that I ever received about stories of way back, in between, and even when I was on the board came from Mike Shulkins. He was a wealth of knowledge, and in his role, he saw a lot over a lot of years. So appreciate all the service he provided the city and the stories he shared with all of us. The weather has offered a lot of challenges. The warming shelter is one. You know, St. Paul stepped up in conjunction with Holy Trinity or Holy Spirit Parish and attacked this. And then we added on another group of people that are continuing to serve the need. And this need is a life or death matter. So take it seriously. Please find the shelter, find warming. You're going to need it, especially over this night. One other challenge that's absolutely been in the forefront, and Meet NKY, the Northern Kentucky Chamber, and many of us mayors got together and said, there's some challenges with the restaurants, especially in January and February. So we're like, what can we do? How can we market this? And an idea was born, and it's kind of fun. And it got a much better name than the original one, and I'm not going to share the original one, and I don't think it's worthy of print. But Dine NKY is the name of the program that has been established on Tuesday, which is the hardest day for restaurants. Many are closed on Monday, but Tuesday is a hard day. The goal is to go out in the community, take a picture of yourself with your family, submit it to #DineNKY, and they will give away a $50 gift card if you're selected. And then there's a grand prize of $300. So the idea is to create an activation, give you something to do, go eat, have fun, and possibly win a little bit of money to go back to that restaurant or another one. So we need our restaurants, and they have a difficult time in the winter, typically, until they get to Valentine's Day, I hear. So this is something to try and encourage and be a part of helping these people that need help in January. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski.
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Yes.
Mayor Gaduli.
Yes.